Welcome back, everybody, to Hey Whosie, episode 19. I have the esteemed Nathan Swift back on the show today because there's just too much in the ether of artificial intelligence and software and tech and tools and the titans of this said industry where we just need to be able to address a couple things, communicate on what we are dealing with in our day jobs and what we see out in the marketplace. Here's what I found interesting, Nate. When we tend to look at what Claude is doing, Anthropic right now, from moving from this like research preview to essentially $1 billion product so violently fast, do you think we're at the precipice now where there really is no going back, or is there a new baseline for human effort, or are we just reconstituting the entire thing?
I mean, you don't have to use AI if you don't want to. So I wouldn't say that it's making a cultural shift and that it's being implemented into everybody's lives. Maybe it is indirectly from the companies that do use it and the users doing business with.
Yeah.
But for any founder or employee, you can still do the work yourself if you want to.
Do you think in the lay of the land that you are currently in, because you've got your ear to the ground as well, do you find that people are, let's say, top tier organizations, publicly traded companies?
Yeah, I think the AI world has made a lot of promises that they haven't been able to uphold. So I believe a deal with some central banks and OpenAI is in the works right now, where OpenAI is promising them 17.5% return annually for this investment research agent that's going to be managing some portfolio or some sum of a portfolio, right?
Yeah.
Until they turn profitable, can they make promises to make other people more profitable? It's one of those things, right? Show me you can do it before you tell me I can do it. But because of the promise of artificial intelligence and how far it's come from 3 years ago when it just answered questions to 6 months ago when it did all the research and could be layered into workflows to 2 weeks ago where it can just do from a prompt, where it can actually control your computer and just do the work. Those do have some integrity to them, right? So you do see a lot of advancement moving forward. So I don't know. I mean, they are making deals and wanting to move forward because the promise is there and that the results are somewhat there. But again, the companies just haven't been able to do it themselves yet. They haven't been able to be profitable yet. Yeah, they're valued, but no, I don't know. I guess from that standpoint. It's a tricky question.
It is, yeah, because which kind of lands in this next one. A lot of people tend to lean on this question where they feel like the more that they hand off tasks, deliberations, what have you, to a large language model or what have you, they're afraid that they're going to start losing their problem solving part of their brain. I look at it like this. We have Google Maps. We have all these different types of, Apple Maps, what doesn't matter, that can direct you to where you're wanting to go, especially in a place that you've never been to before, so you're completely unaware of the terrain. But if you're in your neighborhood or you're in the city or state that you grew up in, and it's a place that you've been to a few times, but you still kind of don't know, we're still reliant on these applications. I'm guilty of it myself. One thing that I found that works really well, because me personally, I think I don't have a very good internal navigation system in my brain. So when it comes to direction, I force myself, if I've been to a place at least once, see if I can get there without having to use a Google map. And I'll mess up or whatever. I have to take a wrong turn. But I feel like that's a good way of training your brain to kind of keep those muscles from atrophying.
And
right?
that makes sense. Everybody has their weak spots, right? It might be
Yeah.
it might be math, it might be science, it might be literature. For you, it's directions. Does AI help you? Does Google Maps help you? Yeah, of course. But are you going to lose your critical problem solving skills in mathematics, which you excel at, because of AI? Probably not. We're just born with some gifts, and those gifts kind of stick around because we are using them every day, and it's we our profession is in what we're powerful in, right? So
Yeah. Go ahead.
we're gonna keep learning about the things that we're interested in and bettering those skills. But I mean, as far as somebody's weak spot, you got to go ahead and use AI because it's going to benefit you, but it's not going to take away your critical thinking.
Yeah, without getting too philosophical and like going down a rabbit hole, that I love that you mentioned that, because long time ago, I guess you can call him a mentor of mine. He was just a dude that I looked up to. He was a really successful guy, but you would never know it. Drove a beater, you know, didn't wear fancy clothes, just the kind of guy that I would model my version of success. Not a flashy person by any means. And, you know, I think I was like in my early 20s, and he said to me, most people try to work on their weaknesses to bring them up to the level of their strengths, when it should be the exact opposite. You should be strengthening your strengths. Yeah. Get better at the things that you're good at, and then the things that you aren't good at, you can hire. And that's kind of how I look at AI. And that mention that you made, it's like, well, if you're excelling in mathematics and science, you know, maybe you don't want to have to deal with organizing your calendar. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You know? So
yeah, Eric was actually telling me about that, where it kind of clicked was, you know, if your kid has A's and B's in math and has like a C in English, get the tutor for math because they're already excelling in it. Make them the best they can be in math, and they'll figure out something else for the English, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we've spent a lot of time as a society, whether it was the radio to the television to now this, you know, newspaper, and then the smartphone, where we kind of become like hypnotized, right? And swiping through screens, opening 5 different apps just to organize a single thought. And here you have, I don't know when it launched, last month, the month before that, relatively recently, you have OpenClaw, which proved that the entire ritual was just a transition phase. And if you want to clarify that or classify that as a hallucination, you can, because we're moving from like this self-hosted gateway where natural language, just dropping a voice note into WhatsApp or Telegram, connects directly to autonomous assistant. And that's I think that's a lever point where all these different big boy giants are starting to adopt. And it goes from, hey, I need you to do X and then research Z and whatever. And then you have to figure out a way to prompt it so that it actually gives you the right information. So you have to know how to ask the question better, which means that you have to understand what it is, the nature of the information that you're dissecting. Whereas now it's becoming so intelligent that you can communicate it like you're communicating with your buddy. And now that entire thing becomes reframed, and the interface becomes the internet, essentially.
Yeah, or the Telegram chat or the iMessage, right? Yeah, it's funny that we have natural language, which is just the language we speak, and then we have the computer language, which is CSS and Python. Yeah. And now we've taught computers, we wrote the code for it, but now we've taught computers how to understand us just speaking to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe the guy that was talking about this in this Reddit or subreddit that I was trying to pull this information up was Jason. You may have recognized it. Jason Huang, I believe is how you pronounce his name, but he called OpenClaw the operating system for personal artificial intelligence, which I thought was interesting. Because if you think about how quickly does this like platform shift to completely eradicate the traditional app store model from just a standard one app is all you need on your phone to do everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I need to be able to view my feed on Instagram. Boop, there you go. You know,
yes.
At some point, will it even need a third-party app, or it all just becomes an API connection? I don't know. This isn't my area of expertise. I just thought it was interesting because from a psychological standpoint, the cost of having like one single entity that is omnipotent in some degree kind of handles your entire digital environment and ecosystem.
Yeah, to a point, or to an extent, right? There's always going to be roadblocks that AI runs into. When you look at OpenClaw and Claude Co-Work, they have OpenClaw doesn't have any any guardrails. OpenClaw is actually the very technical version of Claude Co-Work. Claude Co-Work came out to make it have a sandbox that you can play in, and when you ask it the initial prompt, it will say, hey, do you want me to do this? Or can you give me this API secret key, right? Your secret API key to be able to connect to those outside sources. So it's not just running rampant and doing things that you don't want it to do, or thinking that it's doing the right thing incorrectly.
In, you know, an organization like Huzi, that is essentially, we are a top tier consulting firm with their own version of technology that can address a lot of the problems that are maybe perhaps not having these guardrails that you said, and also creating systems around an ecosystem that is specific to an industry, what have you. So when you think of it in those terms, how can you help business owners that are listening right now? How do we help them understand whether or not they need to rely on this open source infrastructure versus like having something that is so tailor made and we take all the guesswork out of it so that it becomes just brain dead simple plug and play, but you're getting all the power and all the experience that you would need without actually having to go and create those security opportunities?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of parts to this. So to give everybody who's listening the full scope of what we're talking about is, you know, OpenClaw came out, and basically what they built was more than just a niche product, right?
Right.
It became more of like, hey, this is valued at a pretty high amount of money. So we have a lot of users using it. It's turned into an actual business that runs. Claude CoWork came out after OpenClaw, and they had 4 developers build it in roughly 10 days, right? These developers, though, they had a lot of experience. They knew what they were doing. If you asked me to build Claude CoWork in 10 days, I wouldn't be able to do it, even if I had 4 of me, right? So it just wouldn't work like that. So number one is like the expertise. If you're going to hire somebody to do any kind of consulting, like make sure they have computer engineers on their team. Make sure they're not just building thin AI wrappers. Make sure that if there was an issue that did come up after the agent was built, there would be somebody who could look at the code and interpret what happened and where they need to go to fix it immediately. So you don't want to trade hours of you doing manual work, give it to an AI agent just so you have to go back and figure out what the AI agent did wrong and where it messed up so you can fix that. And that will happen. I mean, I've done it myself. It's just better to have the experience on the team that you hire, the human team that you hire, to build the agent team that you want.
Oh, that makes sense, because it removes a lot of the friction and guesswork, right? It's just, and that's where I think we create this level of misunderstanding. Yes, it's a incredibly advanced technology, don't get me wrong, but it's no different in the grand scheme of things of when Microsoft Excel first came on the market. You know, like, you didn't know how to organize your sheets. To this day, there are people that don't know how to do it and will go and to Fiverr.com and buy pre-made templates, as an example, to rectify that problem. There's always going to be various solutions. It's always going to advance. It doesn't mean that there isn't going to be an expert to help kind of steer the way for you, especially ones that are specific to industries that you are currently residing in. I do want to switch gears slightly about the whole Nvidia and Anthropic potential. You know, if you look at what the board is right now, there's a terrifying vertical integration that could be happening, is happening. There's a potential of it happening. I don't know. I don't have an inside scoop. What I do know, based off what we were able to find, is that Nvidia is building the physical tracks, the actual hardware with OpenShell, which I look at as like the governance, right? And the policy engines and the privacy routers, where Anthropic with Claude is building the reasoning engine. So if you think about it, if Nvidia controls the sandbox and Anthropic controls the cognition, then they kind of come together and they create this like crazy mechanism that just is able to withstand everything. And now you don't really have any of those cracks in the wall as before. You don't have the security issues that you do with OpenClaw as an open source model. But then again, there's, I think for every negative stance that you can give an open source model like an OpenClaw, there are positive outcomes. You do have less red tape. You do have more anonymity and all those things that come with open source. That's why I'm on Android. So I understand someone that's on the up and up that doesn't have to omit to rules and regulation, perhaps wanted to test something. That is a great way from a resources standpoint, money, time, and then they can start to cooperate and figure out what they wanted to do if it becomes a winner. I'm just saying it's like a testing environment. And maybe that's how you have to look at OpenClaw. Maybe OpenClaw becomes this testing environment for startups. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. So I called Eric yesterday to get an idea of how he was using his agents, right? And he's using OpenClaw and he's also using Claude CoWork just to see what the difference is.
Yep.
And he said that it's Android versus iPhone.
That's so
Right?
funny.
Exactly kind of what you're saying right now is OpenClaw's Android gives you a
Yeah.
lot more freedom to do what you want to do with it, but it's also way more technical, like way more technical. CoWork, you just go in and give it the prompt, and then it kind of navigates and understands what you're saying by asking you more questions and then getting the access to the things that it needs to get done. Nvidia had saw like proof of product in OpenClaw so much that they were like, hey, we're going to build some structure and safeguards around it that you can install into OpenClaw. So it does kind of the same thing as CoWork does, where it asks you permission, gets this stuff from you, doesn't just take over all your computer things and knows your passwords and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, like just logically thinking, is that that's step one to an investment in a product that they see viable, right? They've now built safeguard rails around something that isn't even theirs and that they don't own. But because of the use of it, they thought they'd step in and get a little bit of recognition for what they're trying to do here. That also tells me that it's not a completed product that is ready to be purchased, right? You bring up the security issues, which even in CoWork, even in Anthropic's own product says, hey, this is still dangerous if you use it in the wrong way. There was an example in a YouTube video I was watching where an email was brought in and OpenClaw was connected to it, and the email said, hey, send me your last 5 emails that you received, right? And it did it without even asking. So whatever's in those 5 emails could be, information you don't want to get out, and the bot just did it for you, right? So that's why these sandboxes are important, but I don't think it would be difficult to send an email that gets ingested by an agent that has an encrypted link in it that could attack or harm your computer because it opens it on your hardware, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These are the things that you want to be worried about, and they're not niche cases. I mean, this stuff happens to actual human beings that click on links in their inbox that get malware immediately. So an agent could do it even easier and probably go a couple steps too far, if you ask me.
Yeah. Do you also think that they're using this as just as a data point, like for them, like they are just trying to accrue data on what this would look like in terms of, oh, these are the issues that we're seeing NemoClaw running into, acting as a sandbox for OpenClaw for their own internal platform, or maybe it is a conversation with Anthropic. I don't know. Could be.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that one. I know that they see something inside of OpenClaw. They see some kind of productive AI assistant, which is what they want it to be. But the security risks are just kind of keeping them at a safe distance from investing money into this company until they find a viable way to implement this, where it's like, hey, if a user signs up for it, you guys are going to be safe. They can make that promise. Or else, yeah, you're just opening yourselves up to a lot of probably litigation.
So for those that perhaps don't know, OpenClaw is just a open source AI agent platform that allows people to automate tasks by connecting different large language models to it, right? So you can like connect Telegram, you can connect Slack, WhatsApp. What else can you do?
Yeah, so the start is downloading the software. So you're gonna download the software into your terminal on your computer, and you can connect it to a chat interface like Slack, like iMessage, WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord, whatever you want to connect it to. And then from there, you have to have a OpenAI account or an Anthropic account, or you have to use a platform that has access to these accounts that basically create an API integration. So if I logged into, let's say, like, I don't know, AI.com, and I created an account, it had its own API keys to, Kimmy K, Gemini, Anthropic, whatever. I put in my credit card. Each one of those different models cost a different amount per token usage, right? Okay, so you're connecting that to your OpenClaw, and then that OpenClaw is connected to your Slack. So now in Slack or iMessage, I can say, hey, will you look up my calendar for tomorrow and let me know the best route to get to all the houses that I need to go to. It can go do that because it's now connected to the tokens. So it can go do the research. It can connect to your calendar, figure out what's going on there, and then tell you, hey, stop here first, stop here second, stop here third. It's going to be the best saving. That's basically the build of it, right?
Yeah. So you've got, so OpenClaw, so this is where I think people were confused and where I was a little bit disoriented at the very beginning of this thing. I'm like, okay, OpenClaw is this AI, it's autonomous AI agent, which has like a broad spectrum of things that it can do without human oversight. And then you've got agentic, which is you have human oversight and it intervenes, and there's sandboxes and whatever to be able to procure security. What I found that Claude CoWork is kind of a hybrid. It's both agentic and it's autonomous. So it can act as both, which is really interesting if you were trying to, and again, that going back to the Android versus iPhone conversation, I think that's very interesting because if you are wanting to dip your feet into this thing, and perhaps you are, you don't have another computer that you could use, you could test on, and you don't want your files to get destroyed because there's always a potential for that level of security. And maybe that would be something that they could consider to start out with, because you kind of dip your toes in the water a little bit. I find that if you're curious about this and what it would look like, that'd be a great start. However, if you want the entire ecosystem built and trained and operated around your business, can you tell me a little bit how the Whoozy ecosystem kind of does all that already?
Yeah, you you basically tell Whoozy what you need, and they're going to build it for you the right way. So that's what a consultant is for, right? They know how the processes work. They know the best way to achieve the goal with the least amount of money and the fastest way. Yeah. So essentially, like a good example would be like that email security issue I brought up earlier, where it sent the last 5 emails that had information you didn't want to get linked to this request that this person had sent them. What you would do instead would be set up an email inbox for your agent specifically. So any emails that they're creating it has its own, Claude or OpenClaw agent at gmail.com. So anything that it sends or receives is all in its own place. It literally is its own employee. So it's not getting, the support from a product queries, right? The support queries for a product. It's not getting banking or financial info from your Stripe account. That's all in a whole different ecosystem under a different email address. So there's no relation unless you send it that information. But that's what I would say is like, yeah, if you wanted to get something like this done, the factors that I talked about before is make sure that they have devs on their team, make sure that they have a proof of product, and make sure that they have research and development. So they're actually an expert in this industry. Those are all great ways to verify a company, whether it's Whoozy or not. It's a great way to verify a company that knows what they're doing.
What do you feel is the most valuable non-technical skill that you would force a computer science student, as an example, to learn? Someone that grows up in technology.
Yeah, critical thinking, common sense and logic. I think that is the most important skill to have, is to be able to make assumptions based off of facts that you know to be true. I think that would be number one, is be able to diagnose issues without having to say, help me.
I couldn't have said it better. That's the best answer, just because I believe in it. Last question before I get you out of here. I did want to ask, people that feel overwhelmed, myself included, we all feel overwhelmed from time to time. But in this world, things are moving so fast all the time. It's lightning speed. Like I remember when OpenClaw, I thought this happened yesterday, and then boom, now we've got Claude CoWork. And this fog of tech that we just all have to deal with. What do you think the highest leverage action that they can take today in order to at least regain some illusion of control? For me, if I'm a business owner, I would want to use Whoozy as the ecosystem, right? Because you're getting best of both worlds. But in your opinion, why would that even be a consideration? Because there's so many different AI wrappers. There's a lot of different consultancies and firms around the space. Why Whoozy? I just want to make sure that people understand what we're actually doing here and why it differentiates, and why we separate ourselves, and why we are the elite. And I'm saying that because it's true. Because the people that are behind this organization that are doing these things have their noses in the most advanced technology, and are making sure that it's applicable to you and be able to assist you. But I just want to hear from you as a marketing director who's constantly has your hand in like 17 things at once.
Yeah, first, don't feel like you've lost control. Don't feel so much overwhelm of being behind, because you're really not. What the influencers do is they show you some practical use case that seems really easy to create, and then they sell it to you for $10 a month or whatever, right? That's their whole goal, is just to create a little bit of money on the side for themselves.
Yeah.
But when you look at the actual companies who are creating the product that they're putting in these AI wrappers and selling to you, it's, hey, we just got image generation out, check it out. And the text is all messed up, right? And then you get video generation, and you look at the one from Will Smith eating spaghetti, a year and a half ago to now, it's actually a lot better. But if you put in the same prompt twice, that video could be 2 different versions with the same prompt, right? So nothing that they say is actually true. Yes, it's happening, but it is not as detailed or specific or consistent as we would all like it to be. Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is that everybody has their own experiences in their business. They have their own problems that need to be solved. They have their own workflows that they want to layer AI into. That's never a one size fits all, right? And because Whoozy gets to work with so many different kind of characters in this world, so many different business owners, and we're able to diagnose all of their problems, hundreds, thousands of problems, and figure out the best way to do it. That gives them the experience. And I'm not saying myself, because I'm on the marketing side. I'm not on the consultation side at all. But from what I've seen in the videos and listening to the transcripts and basically digesting all of this information, is that because of the experience that they have, that makes them people that you can trust. And because of the people that you ask that have used them before and say they were a great company, that's somebody that I would go to as like a thought leader. Somebody maybe I don't even do business with them, but I'm going to listen to what they have to say, because they're going to take a step back from the scenario and be like, let's look at this from like that critical thinking point of view and understand, do we even need this? Do you really even need this in your business? Or can we spend the money in a different route? Which I've seen in several videos, that is the case. From what Eric tells people, is like, this is kind of pointless. It's money better spent in this area of your business. It'll save you more, or it'll make you more.
And you can't get that unless you have like a couple decades of expertise in that field. And then you factor in all of the tech, then, that's only enhancing. I always look at it in comparison of Tony Stark in Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like, he's already a brilliant guy, but then he builds this technology that he leverages to enhance his weaknesses, essentially.
Yeah.
Because his mind is his asset. So I think
yeah.
Cool.
So last podcast I was on with you, I told you, you might learn more from a fantasy book than a business book, right?
Yeah.
I came across one of these lines in one of the books I was reading, and it said, a man is not made based off of his intentions, but off of his choices. And that hit home. And I was thinking, like, that's the integrity of somebody. You can tell people what you want to do and have the best intent, but when it comes down to it, are you going to take somebody's money and sell them a product that that's not going to help them? Or are you going to tell them, hey, don't invest it here, put it over here instead? That's what Eric's built around himself. That's what Whoozy as a company has taken from the guy who's leading it. Is that we're not here to make a quick buck.
Totally, man. Doing the right thing when no one's watching.
Yeah.
That to me is a definition of integrity.
Yeah,
so.
we're trying to figure this thing out as much as anybody else, and it is fast paced, but with what we know, we know we can help people.
That's fantastic. And Whoozy.ai, and they can reach you at Nate at Whoozy.ai as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you being here, man. Again, so much treasure trove of knowledge. I hope everybody took away something, learned a little bit of something. We'll be having Nate on. We're going to get a little more specific. If you guys have any questions and you guys are curious about specific things that you would love for us to touch on, I want you to email. You can email Nate at Whoozy.ai or Mo at Whoozy.ai, or submit your questions through Spotify or all the interwebs or social media handles that we're on. I think everything that we know on social media is just Whoozy.ai. That's our handle, right, Nate?
Yeah, everything should be Whoozy AI or Whoozy.ai. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, keep asking the hard questions and keep living, everybody. Appreciate you. Have a good day.